We all think about student anxiety, and our minds usually jump straight to exam season. But what if that's just the tip of the iceberg? Today, we're going to dig into the much deeper, more complex reality of student stress and explore some really fascinating creative ways to help kids navigate it. So let's just ask it straight up. Is exam stress really the whole story? Well, spoiler alert, the answer is a big, resounding no. The pressures students are dealing with these days stretch way, way beyond the classroom walls. And getting our heads around that is the very first step toward finding solutions that, actually work. All right, so what we're really looking at here is a brand new landscape for anxiety. This isn't your classic, familiar exam stress anymore. It's this modern cocktail of pressures that honestly needs a completely fresh approach. And this is what's so interesting, this modern anxiety mix. Of course, you've still got the academic pressure, that's not going anywhere, but now it's all tangled up with stress from home, and on top of that, these huge abstract fears about global issues, like climate anxiety. For a young person trying to figure things out, that combination can feel absolutely crushing. Okay, so how in the world do you tackle these massive abstract fears? Well, some really powerful new research points to a fascinating strategy called the creative buffer. And it's all about making the unmanageable feel manageable. So, the heart of this whole thing is something called a cognitive buffer. Just think of it like a mental safety zone or a cushion for the mind. You create this space when students get to use their hands, through tactile, creative stuff, to process feelings that are just too big and scary to put into words. And this right here, this is the magic. The whole goal is making these abstract fears tangible. I mean, imagine a student turning a vague sense of dread about the future into a physical thing, something they can actually hold and look at. All of a sudden, that fear isn't endless anymore. It has edges, it has boundaries. It becomes something they can actually start to deal with. So what does this actually look like in a classroom? Well, it's basically a three-step process. First, you talk about the fear. You guide what's called a philosophical inquiry, which is really just a structured conversation that lets students explore the big questions. Next, they get their hands on stuff, Lego, clay, you name it. And finally, they externalize that feeling by building or creating a physical model of it. Now, I can practically hear what so many teachers out there are thinking. This sounds lovely, but when am I supposed to find the time for this? And that brings us to maybe the most important point of all, the undeniable link between well-being and academic success. We have to completely reframe how we think about time in the classroom. The common worry is that doing something like this means losing time for the curriculum. But the reality is, it's a symbiotic relationship. Anytime you invest in student well-being isn't lost at all. It's actually reclaimed because you get it back through better focus, better retention, and students who are truly ready to learn. And listen, this isn't just some nice feel-good theory. It's straight-up biology. A brain that's flooded with cortisol, the main stress hormone, is literally incapable of forming new memories effectively. It just can't. So by lowering that stress, you're not taking a break from learning. You're actually creating the fundamental conditions that make learning possible in the first place. But look, an idea this powerful can't just rest on the shoulders of one teacher here or there. For this to really work, it has to be a whole school approach, one that taps into all the amazing skills already in the building. The crazy thing is, in most schools, all the expertise you need to support students is already walking the halls. The problem? It's usually trapped in departmental silos. All this amazing knowledge gets locked away instead of being shared with everyone who could benefit from it. I mean, just think about what this could look like. Your art and design departments, they're masters of focusing on the process, not just a final product. Your PE colleagues are experts in breathing techniques and physical regulation. And your humanities teachers, they're pros at guiding those deep, meaningful conversations. The talent is all there. We just have to connect the dots. Okay, this is so important. As powerful as these classroom strategies are, every single one of us needs to be crystal clear on our role and, more importantly, on the limits of that role. This is all about knowing when to support and when it's time to refer. So, what's our job? Well, these classroom-based strategies are perfect for things like those totally normal pre-exam jitters or general worries about tough subjects we're covering. And of course, for building that baseline of emotional resilience in all our students. That's our zone. But, and this is a huge but, if you start to see real red flags, things like signs of panic, a student who just won't come to school, someone who is constantly withdrawn, or who expresses a deep sense of hopelessness, that is a clear signal to stop. Our role in that moment is to immediately get them to a school counselor or another mental health professional, period. So, let's pull this all together into a toolkit you can use this term. First, start small. Weave in some short, hands-on activities. When you talk about it, always frame well-being as a tool for making the classroom more efficient. Reach out and collaborate with your colleagues in the creative and PE departments. And always, always, always keep that threshold for professional referral super low. And that really leaves us with the one big question we should all take back to our schools. In a system that's so driven by results and just getting through the content, how can we really embed these practices so that everyone, from staff to students to parents, sees well-being not as a distraction from the real work, but as the essential tool that makes all that real work possible?